The most interesting guests. The coolest conversations. Keep watching episodes of the Grizzly Podcast, hosted by Irvin Scott. Never miss an episode. Follow the Grizzly Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, and more apps to get episodes delivered straight to your iPhone, Android, or any device as soon as they drop. Can't get enough of the Grizzly Podcast? Stay up to date with all our latest news, events, and behind-the-scenes footage by visiting grizzlypodcast.com. Oh, you thought we were done? Not a chance. The Grizzly Podcast is back with even more incredible guests and content this year, including our massive 50th episode celebration. Head over to grizzlypodcast.com, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow us on social media so you don't miss a single moment. And remember, stay on your Grizzly.
So what does it mean to be on your Grizzly? It means hard work, dedication, and it means progress. Be on your Grizzly. Hard work, dedication, and progress.
I'm on my Grizzly, y'all. I'm on my Grizzly. I'm on my Grizzly, y'all. I'm on my Grizzly. I'm on my Grizzly, y'all. I'm on my Grizzly. And if you're busy making moves, say it with me. I'm on my Grizzly, y'all. I'm on my Grizzly. I'm on my Grizzly, y'all. I'm on my Grizzly. I'm on my Grizzly, y'all. I'm on my Grizzly. And if you're busy making moves, say it with me.
Coming to you from the City of Angels, this is the Grizzly Podcast, hosted by Irvin Scott.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Grizzly Podcast. I am your host, Irvin Scott, and today I am joined by a very special guest. He is an actor, a filmmaker, best known for his role as Melton Krupnick on the Disney XD comedy series Kickin It. He's also played the role of Timmy Maplewood in the 2009 comedy drama film Life During Wartime, starring Shirley Henderson and Allison Janney. He's also appeared on Broadway as young Tarzan in the 2006 musical Tarzan. He's also the co-owner of Watch the Footage Productions. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest today, Dylan Riley Snyder. Woo!
That is an intro. Wow. It's like, I haven't heard, I guess, myself introduced so thoroughly, and that's kind of exciting. Well, I'm super excited to be here. Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me.
Yes, Dylan, thank you so much for being a part of the Grizzly Podcast, man. We've had your wife, Allison Snyder, on the show before, so it was only right to bring you on as well and just talk about everything that's going on in your world today, as well as talk about things that happened back in the day, just to kind of give people some perspective on how your career got started in this industry. Again, man, thank you so much for being a part of the show. How are things with you?
Things are going great. I feel like the industry as a whole has kind of been leaving the post-COVID funk, the post-COVID haze, as it were, and I feel like things are moving. Our films are moving. We have a lot of cool things on the horizon. Allison and I have been very busy. It's really just nice to see a lot of productions back up and running and people kind of back moving to their normal operating pace. It's hyped.
It felt like just yesterday, right?
Yeah, and that's the weird thing. It's like it's been a couple years, but man, it's like it's hard to distinguish those years. Allison and I got married in 2019, right before, like September of 2019, right before the pandemic. And it was only a couple of months, and then I feel like we had this like 3-year period that almost felt like it was just the year after we got married. It was weird because later on in the pandemic, we were like, "How long have we been married now? Has it been?" It's been like 3 years. That's impossible. Like this just happened. Especially not going outside, not having consistent tasks. It is difficult to separate our days out as a collective, as a whole. And so, yeah, we're getting to a point where it's we now have a calendar that is filled up. We have things to do, and I feel like a lot of people feel that way. Almost most, I would say everybody almost feels that way now. Which is good, and it feels good for us because we can get things back up and moving. The industry as a whole had been really stagnant. Films were really nervous about going into production because insurance was impossible to get on films at certain points. The rates would just be too high. It's like we were looking at shooting a film in 2020, and we had everything lined up. And then as soon as we found out that there were going to be, we're going to have to shut down and we might have to push it a little bit, we waited like 6 months and we were like, okay, let's just see, what the cost would be. And our budget was almost doubled from what it would have had to have been. So it's, it was pretty significant. And I think we're getting to a good point where it's not as intense anymore.
It's definitely been a few years after COVID, but happy to hear that everything is, going well for you guys, for you and your wife, Allison. Congratulations to you both, because I know you recently won an award for your short film, which was Don't Turn Off the Ghost Light. Allison basically received that Best Director award, but I know you were also heavily involved with that project. So I want to congratulate you as well, just on that whole project. I actually got a chance to watch it. I was invited to the festival you guys had in LA. Matthew Scott was there as well. And the fact that you also made the Hollywood Short Film Festival and you won an award there, again, kudos to you guys. And I know you guys have been very busy working on all kinds of other projects as well.
We made 4 music videos for the band Pistol for Ringo. We made a couple music videos for the artist Jesse Page. So we definitely, we were busy kind of with, some music video projects. Allison directed Howdy Neighbor. And I was a producer on that and the director of photography. So we definitely, it was a, kind of a family affair a little bit. And it was fantastic. I mean, it was a crazy experience, the most intense 11-day span that we've had in a while. And so we've been editing that, and that's very close. We're kind of in the final process of just making little tweaks, and we have some submissions out for some festivals, and we're very excited for where that is going. We have some announcements for that kind of queued up, I would say. But yeah, also, we have been moving. We've been making, we have been kind of like signed on to a couple other people's like shorts and in talks with development on other projects. So, trying to keep the ball rolling at all times, kind of no matter what we're doing. We always have this thing where we always work really, really hard whenever we're on set, just because we love being on set. You want to relish the opportunity. But then you get off set and you're like, if I don't work really, really hard again, I can't get to set again. So you almost have to like crank your interim time to like 130, 140% work, just kind of getting everything done just so you can actually get back to the fun part of the job.
You're somebody who embodies what we do on this show. The reason why I wanted you on this show, Dylan, is because this is the Grizzly Podcast. And for those tuning in right now or watching the episode and you're wondering, what does he mean by that? Well, because this is the Grizzly Podcast is all about highlighting people such as Dylan here, who is always grinding, constantly hustling, just doing his best to motivate others along the way to stay on their Grizzly. So no journey comes easy, right? But, we stay grinding, we stay working hard, and that's the best way for us to kind of, continue to do what we do and what we love. So, yeah, man, very cool to hear about everything going on in your world.
Allison is she has so much drive. She is like the biggest factor in my life that has been just like, we got to keep moving. It was something ingrained in her, like, I don't know, from her youth or her teen years, that she just kind of built this like nonstop go-getter attitude. And us kind of dating at a very specific time in my life, I think it kind of formed us both. We kind of created this little packet, this duo where we just we can kind of tag each other in to nonstop keep going. And it's cool because it's definitely a partnership kind of through and through. We work on everything together. There is a time where she will kind of like pass the torch on certain tasks, and in the morning I pass the torch to her because like I don't operate super great in the morning, so we can consistently kind of handle each other's tasks and keep our business moving. Which is great. I feel like both of us together can operate like, I don't know. I don't want to discount ourselves by saying like both of us together can operate as one really efficient person, but it's like as a pair, we typically get more than the average person's workload done, which I think is beneficial.
You guys are the dynamic duo. She's been on her grind since she was young, but you yourself have been doing this thing since you were just a kid as well. And Dylan, you ready to do this?
I'm ready. I'm ready.
So Dylan, you were born in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and you began your acting career in community theater at the age of 5 after attending your older sister's musical theater rehearsals. Is that correct?
Yeah. Okay. So Alabama, it's a great place. It's very beautiful, but there's not too much to do there. If you're really into football, that's great. They love football there. The kind of other pastime that you have is theater. At least in Tuscaloosa, they had multiple theater programs, and for the kids, it was something really great to do that was an alternative sports. Growing up, I did baseball. I'm not much of a football-esque type. I don't have the build for it. But I it's like I played some sports, but I spent a lot of time in theater. My sister was always in theater. That's like was her whole thing. I always wanted to be around her. She's 11 years older than I am. My mom is extremely artistic. She's very creative. She was a 3D graphic designer, and she kind of became a set designer and builder for all of these productions that were going on. So my family was very involved in the arts from an early age. My sister being an actress predominantly, I spent a lot of time at rehearsals, and when I was around 18 months, I could walk and I couldn't really speak, but I could take direction. And so some of the directors would kind of be like, hey, my sister is Cassie. Be like, Cassie, your brother, does he want to like do something in this? We can just have him like carry a mop over here and mop a sticker. And she's like, okay, yeah, go ahead. So I started just kind of performing and being in the productions alongside of her, just because I wouldn't put up a fuss. I would follow directions. It was very consistent. So years of that going by, I started getting speaking roles, and personally, I started getting a little competitive with my sister. I wanted to be in more productions than she was. And my mom also, I think, egged it on a little bit by being like, Cassidy's done 30 of these productions. Do you want to do more than Cassidy? I'm like, yeah, I want to do more than Cassidy. She's like, okay, you got to do more then. At some point, she had mentioned that my sister had done a film. My sister was in Delroy Lindo's Soul of the Game. I guess they filmed it close by, maybe in Atlanta, and in a baseball stadium. She was in the stadium and had like a featured extra role with him. So it was a cool experience for her, and my mom had talked about that, and we had tossed around the idea of maybe taking acting more professionally. Mind you, I was only I was 8 at the time, 7 or 8, and Hurricane Katrina. I was living in the South. I was living in Alabama and Mississippi, kind of concurrently. Hurricane Katrina came through, and a lot was damaged. Our area had some significant damages. It took people kind of like 3 days to get out of our city. But the school system was like shut down, and they were planning on doing some big overhauls of it. And my dad worked for a branch of finance banks or finance institutions in Mississippi. And so they were having him like rebuild offices. So things were just kind of everywhere. And so while like we had already been tossing around this idea, but various people, mentors and, acting coaches and teachers in my life had kind of all talked with my parents and said, hey, now might be a really good opportunity to get out of Mississippi, get out of Alabama, like go to New York, try it out. Try it out for 6 months, don't necessarily hinge your entire new life on it, but just give him the opportunity to experience something else, try out acting. And so we ended up taking a 6-month little period of my mom and I went up to New York. We found like a sublet apartment and we lived up there for a bit, kind of getting, I guess, the lay of the land, trying to reach out and get an agent. And after our 6-month period, we were kind of just starting to be like, okay, let's book the flights back and, let's go back home. And the agent, Innovative Artists, said, hey, we're really interested in him. We want to kind of put him on like a kind of a temporary run situation and see what can happen. Like, we want to represent him temporarily, essentially.
And by the way, and this was all in Manhattan, New York.
Yeah. And again, 6 months in Manhattan, I was living like way on the Upper West Side, like 200th Street, like barely in the Bronx. So it took like an hour to get to Midtown, but it was great. It was living in the city. After that 6-month period, they temporarily represented me, and then I got Tarzan on Broadway.
Before we jump into Tarzan, I know that, you were all over the place, right? You talked about taking direction as a kid, and at the age of 5, your family began letting you audition, leading to your first speaking role as Tiny Tim in a community theater production of A Christmas Carol. Your appearance as Tiny Tim caught the attention of local actor, writer, and director Tina Fitch, who was impressed with your work, and she went on to cast you in several University of Alabama productions whenever they needed a child performer. In 2005, you were selected for the American Boys Choir. And unfortunately, during this time, Hurricane Katrina went down, and Mississippi took a big hit. Your family decided to move back to Alabama, and this is where your friend Tina Fitch suggested that you go to New York City to try your luck in professional theater. So in August of 2005, you and your mother began preparations to make the move to New York City. So you auditioned for several things, and you also competed with hundreds of boys for the role of young Tarzan in the 2006 Broadway production, Tarzan. This is obviously a big move for you. What was it like being a part of Tarzan?
Yeah, I didn't honestly. So I was 9 at the time. I turned 10 while I was in the production. So to give you a frame of reference of the age, it was a very intense process. I mean, it was very physically demanding. It's pretending to be a monkey essentially, and there's a lot of flips, acrobatics, there's like stage flying. They had me flying across the stage, and the entire walls are made of bounce house material. The flooring is gymnastics material, so it's meant for really intense physical activity. It was such an incredible whirlwind of an experience that I really did not understand until I was about 12 years old, the kind of gravity, which gravity is like a bit of a crazy word for it, but legitimately, I was just sitting at home in a chair, and I was looking at my keyboard. I had my music book on my keyboard that I would just kind of like practice, my songs occasionally. That's just for auditioning. And I was looking at that, and inside my music book, I had 2 of the songs from Tarzan that I sang. And I just had this weird, like, mind explosion moment where I was like, oh my God, I performed that in front of a lot of people, like, for a long time. We did that. I was in the show for about 11 months until the show closed. So that's a year at that time in my life. It was a long time to spend doing something, that many shows, and that intense of a performance.
And in addition to that, you also had a Disney vocal coach that helped you project your voice, right? Or they taught you how to project your voice for this role. So Dylan, could you tell me more about what the audition process was like for young Tarzan?
Well, the audition process was ridiculous, I will say. I've never auditioned for something that was as crazy. And I know that there are some intense audition processes out there, but most of the time, I feel like it's an initial audition. You maybe get a callback, maybe a second callback, and then they choose someone. But it was an initial audition and 12 other callbacks. It was 13 total auditions. We just kept coming in. And by the end, it was like sixth or seventh callback, it would be, it would be like 5 of us. And so now, it will go in, they'll do the gymnastics training with everybody, kind of teach you all of the moves that are going to be in the show, maybe a couple extra just so that you kind of feel comfortable doing the moves that you're supposed to do. And then, you perform it in front of them, and they call you back in 2 weeks, and you get back there and now there's 4 of you. And it was like that. So like the Disney vocal coach, it's like, they would bring 3 of us in, and we would all have training sessions with the vocal teacher, and they would work with each of us, and then they would be reporting back to them as well, being like, well, they took the direction really well, they were able to sustain themselves really well. And then we would go back in front of the casting directors and perform it again. And so it was just like this cycle. And eventually it's like, by the end, we were doing all of our rehearsals and our performance, all of our auditions on the stage. The last 2 we did with the rest of the cast. So they got the cast together to do a run through where they were just rehearsing everything, but we were auditioning, which is, it feels so extra, but I guess, they were going to be choosing the child for the next, to be the next young Tarzan for however long. And of course, there's other like contractual gambles that they're taking in the contract for any kid. And this is like information that I even kind of came back across the other day when I was like relooking up some stuff from Broadway. If a child grows over 2 inches or gains over 10 pounds, they should be replaced. It's like their contract is technically like, oh, they broke the contract, they've grown. So it's like, it's you want to be choosing a child who maybe is not going to grow that much, because maybe they'll be able to last like 2 years instead. You're just trying to squeeze time out. So it's like, I guess as a production company and casting directors, they're making a really big decision. But for us, we're like, this is the most intense process we've ever had to go through. This is more intense than actually performing in the show, which is hilarious. But I remember like all of the kids' Broadway auditions were insane. I remember Mary Poppins. They reached out to us on a Friday morning with 32 pages of dialogue and 2 songs. And they said, tomorrow morning, come to this building. They literally gave us 24 hours to get 32 pages of dialogue and 2 songs. The workload was intense. It was ridiculous.
But you know what, man? You were so committed to your role. You did anything to help sell this character. So kudos to you, man, for doing what you did. It was a very crazy, intense process that you had to go through. You were just a kid, and to kind of, endure all this, it just says a lot about who you are. And you're somebody that to this day can take on any workload. So are you proud of that time, or just being a part of that play?
Oh, absolutely. There is a certain amount of work ethic and just camaraderie that I felt like, not that I wouldn't have gained if I was just coming out to LA, but there was a certain amount of respect that people in LA gave me for having the theater background and all of that. Like, everybody out here knew the intense training that goes on. And it's a little bit of a grass is always greener thing as well, because everybody I've met in LA is like, oh man, one day if I could just do some like real acting, like theater in New York. And then all the people are there like, oh man, if I could just get on TV and go to LA. It's like everybody wants the other side. But having gone from there and being able to transition, that experience is invaluable. The working with those people and the conditions and like the repetition, it has trained me more than I think like college would have, really.
It's definitely a learning experience for sure. So very cool to hear that you were part of this production. The show closed July of 2007. That's amazing. I mean, that's like almost every night, basically, right?
It basically we did 8 it's 8 shows a week is like the normal schedule, and we would have 2 young Tarzans. So there was another kid, his name was Alex, and we would alternate shows, and he was a bit older, and so he skateboarded a lot and did get injured quite a bit. So I ended up taking on a lot of the like all 8 shows. I would do a couple of weeks in a row where it'd be like, oh, I'm doing all 8 shows for 3 weeks. Like, wow. That's how that number ends up like creeping up, because typically there is some when you're a child, there is someone else to like share the workload legally, which is good. I think that all 8 shows would when I was doing all 8 shows, it was a lot. It's physically demanding for an adult, and for a child, you just have a lot of other needs as well.
Would you say that maybe even just taking that role on, did it cause like any like physical limitations now as an adult? Back pain, or does that affect you now as an adult?
Probably. I say probably because there's only, okay, I was kind of in a poor posture for the entire thing, kind of hunkered over. And I definitely think that the posture has negatively affected me. I think that I grew really quickly when I was like 15, 16, and that has like most back pain that I have, whenever something comes up, I think is attributed to that. But I think that my poor posture, it can definitely be attributed to Tarzan. At least partially, among other things. But I know that those are very formative years for, growing. And I spent so much time literally just like hanging down. So, yeah.
I got to fix my posture now too. I got
to thinking about it occasionally. Got to like, that is actually the other thing though, is that partially because of the height limitation that you have, it's kind of this thing, the Broadway slouch that all the kids know how to do, where you actually just kind of like, you kind of curl your tailbone in a little bit and you can gain an extra like 2 inches, so it keeps you from losing out on your part because of something uncontrollable, which seems ridiculous. So when you're a child, you're like, anything I can do to like shrink down.
And that's, I guess, part of the business in that sense, where we have to commit to what we're doing, and we can't let anything kind of take away from that.
Yeah.
So being that you're so committed as a performer, I know that after Tarzan, you decided to continue to perfect your craft. You developed musical theater talents by taking ballet lessons, tap dance lessons, voice lessons, dialect lessons, and etiquette lessons. You were definitely doing what you could to help improve yourself as a performer. Tell me a little bit more about what you were doing after Tarzan.
Yeah. So after Tarzan, since I did the show for almost a year, obviously we kind of extended our 6-month window a bit. So I had been living in New York for about a year and a half at this point. And since I was doing pretty well, I was feeling kind of the ride of a success coming off of Tarzan. We decided to stay 6 months more. We'll keep extending it. We'll keep enjoying this. And I just kept working, doing commercials here and there. Commercials are really fun. We got to travel to Philadelphia for the Univest Bank commercial. I think it's a Pennsylvania branch, and they put me up there for a weekend and filmed it. Met a lot of really cool people there. They kind of take you around the cities. So I always enjoyed those. I don't know. My agent, I was with Innovative Artists, and they were so good to me. Like they were just awesome. They sent me out for everything. They let me try a little bit of everything. They had an office that was like very welcoming, and they had voiceover booths in there, and they would let you film your self-tapes in there. So I was just always there. So I thought that they were wonderful, and they kind of helped usher me into the next leg and keep things going, keep auditions rolling in, and ultimately keep jobs coming. I built up quite a resume while I was there.
Dylan, you had the right people behind you because they helped elevate your career. In September of 2009, you appeared as Timmy Maplewood in Todd Solondz' dramatic comedy, Life During Wartime. Now, tell me a little bit more about this role, because the film itself actually tackled controversial subjects such as suicide, incest, and pedophilia. What was it like playing the role of Timmy Maplewood in Life During Wartime? Tell us a little bit more about how that whole thing came about.
Yeah, another very intense audition process, let me say. Not as many auditions for this one, but the casting director, I had met with her before. I had gone to that casting office, and I knew that she was always very nice, but she always likes everybody to be very thorough. She always liked for the children to be completely off book. That is a sign that they're willing to be there and, willing to do the work, essentially. So I knew that she was already intense. So I came, I saw the sides and everything, got him off book, went into the audition. Essentially told me, like, I want to bring you back. Just here's the thing. This director is very intense. Okay. He's very particular. He likes things a certain way, and he likes things to be word perfect. So she's like, so just know that, like, when you come back, like, be ready for him. Said, okay, so I'm going, and we essentially hear that the director wants to go through the entire script with us. He doesn't want to just limit it to the couple of audition scenes. He wants to go through the entire script, and the entire script does have a lot of really dark subjects, right? And so it kind of prompted this question where I remember my sister was staying out in New York with us at the time, and we were all, my mom, my sister, and I were reading over the script with all of these, themes of sexual assault and pedophilia, and my sister was like, oh gosh, like, just don't tell him what it means. And my mom's like, I don't know, like, he kind of has to know what it means if he's going to perform it honestly. And so it kind of sparked this, like, a little bit of an internal family debate. And when we went into the audition, the director, Todd, like, he asked me, he was like, do you know what this means? I was like, yes. And he's like, and he would look at my mom and be like, does he know what this means? And she's like, yep, I explained it to him. And he's like, okay, all right, let's see. And, we would do it, and he would just be like, oh, interesting. Yeah, I definitely do feel like it was from being very young and literally having these things explained to me so that I knew what I was talking about and knew how to act it.
This is new to most kids. I mean, I don't think any kid actually knows what any of this stuff actually is or means. Like, what goes through your mind at an early age learning about stuff like this?
I honestly, I don't feel like I was not exposed to anything beforehand. I feel like I was always allowed to, like, watch pretty much any movie, so it's like I was exposed to a lot of kind of adult themes prior to this, and I think that probably helped kind of jumpstart the specific ideas about, like, okay, you remember this movie, just think of it that way. It's like, got it, okay, now I kind of can already correlate what's going on. But I remember, because my mom would just kind of, ask questions, see where things go, and then be like, okay, all right, here's the deal, and have, like, the fuller conversation, so I understood. And I remember being like, oh, okay, all right, well, got it. How do I synthesize this information then? To me, I guess, and my mom always kind of helped with this, it was always very professional. And so it never felt like, oh, now I learned information, and, like, I don't know. I wasn't doing anything with the information other than just being like, how do I, like, take all this, like, new stuff and make these words sound like that's what's happening. Which maybe that was kind of a good focus for me as a kid, to be able to just, like, not ever really think about it. I don't feel like I was negatively affected by the burden of information as a child. If anything, I felt like it kind of opened up more opportunities and more, more conversations intellectually with people. Like, it got me on a different wavelength. I was able to, talk with older people.
I'm just kind of bummed out over the fact that I missed this movie early on, but loved the film, loved your performance. And I remember specifically, there's a scene in the movie with you and Allison Janney. She's talking about the date she just went on, and she's talking about how she felt she was wet, so to speak, right?
Yep.
digging the date she was on, and it kind of brought some feelings out of her. And she's explaining this to you as a kid, and she realizes, you know what, I'm the adult. I shouldn't really even be speaking to my child about all this. These were the scenes that were presented to you. So being a part of a film like this is obviously always going to be controversial for certain people, but you actually played your role very well. What was it like working with Allison Janney?
Oh, she's wonderful. She's fantastic. She's very good with kids, I would say. But she treated me like a professional, and she was always kind of showing me the tips of the business, and she would be having fun. Like, she was like, "Hey, you want to see how to not take a pill?" And she would show like it dropping it, and little things like that, where it's like, she's kind of like having fun with the idea of like the industry and a kid. And I don't know. I loved working with her. It also, I think it helped at the time that she was going to be in 9 to 5 on Broadway. And I was kind of coming from Tarzan. And at the time there was a whole thing, because I had basically gotten a role in West Side Story at the exact same time that I got the role in the film. And everything was looking like it would work out, that I'd be able to do both. So it was a kind of a conversation of like, oh, we got to be wrapped by this date for Dylan to leave and go to Broadway. But it's like the schedules just kind of conflicted and things were getting moved around. And so I had to like end up choosing one. So she kind of, I think, connected with me on a certain level about just like the kind of what we were doing and kind of the level of what we were doing. She understood that I wasn't kind of, I guess, like a random kid brought in. She was like, oh, this kid's like an actor and he's working and he's doing things. I'm getting ready to do something that he was just doing. So I think that kind of changed like the idea of how we work together in our mind. But again, she was fantastic, and she's amazing on screen.
What was it like working with Todd Solondz?
Todd Solondz is a very eccentric person. And his films are eccentric. His films are, very specific. And you saw Life During Wartime. It's, it's very dark and kind of, it's a dark comedy. It's funny, but in a kind of like a wrong way. And his previous films are that way as well. This is technically a sequel to his film Happiness. And again, everything I heard was that he can be very tricky, and he's very specific. He wants things word perfect. My very first day of actually going to set, it was filmed in Puerto Rico. So I get flown out to Puerto Rico. I'm having this crazy experience. I go to set, and it's like 8 p.m. and they're filming inside of a church. And hours are ticking by. I've been through hair and makeup. I'm in my wardrobe. My first scene up is I have to recite the Haftorah. And it's like, I'm not Jewish, but I had to do like studies for this. I had to go to I had to have a teacher teach me the Haftorah and how to sing it properly and read the notation. So and then I heard that Todd was training to be a rabbi for most of his life. And so this is something that is really like he cares about. This is something personal to him. Oh man, this is, mounting pressure. And then, around 11 or 12 p.m., people are storming out of the church and taking breaks. Everybody's sweating. And they're like, we've been doing it 18, 19 times. He's having us do it again. And then they're like, you're reciting a Haftorah. They'll be like, there was a woman. She was like, good luck, kid. And she walked back in. And it was 3 a.m. before we ever got to my scene. It was 3 a.m. I had been there for hours, and everybody had left. Everybody was like, God, this is going to just take forever. We can't handle it. And I went and just, they set up the camera. I was standing at the little lectern, had the scroll in front of me. I was in the full garb and recited the Haftorah. There was silence for like a full minute afterwards. And I was told, like, when the scene is over, do not get out of character. Todd loves using the moments afterwards. So I was like, okay, all right, I'll stay in character. So I sang this Haftorah and I waited, and it was just silence for like a full minute. And he goes, cut, that's a wrap. And we finished for the day. And I was like, what? Like, everything that I heard was that this was going to be an hours and hours and hours experience, and people were just like stunned. And I was getting on the same bus as all the actors who were going to leave it, and they were like, what, you're already finished? And they ended up calling me Timmy One Take because I somehow could get one takes out of Todd when everybody else was needing to do like, 20 and 30. Working with him was really interesting. I guess we kind of like keyed into something with each other where we were on the same wavelength, and he felt the energy there.
So the film was well received. People loved the cast, and a Variety critic, Todd McCarthy, actually praised your performance in the film, and he said that your character was one of the most compelling characters in the film. What does that feel like, man, knowing that you were able to accomplish that?
Yeah, I mean, the amount of attention that film got, and the type of attention, it seemed to be getting attention from very well respected, reputable sources. And Variety, it had been nominated for some awards. Like it was just like the kind of people that were talking about it. It made it very exciting. It made it feel like, oh man, what I'm doing is like, more than kind of the next bubblegum pop kind of thing. I think that's what started in my mind, kind of wanting to find like an artistic path and wanting to find some sort of like creative road that I could take myself, or a vision that I could kind of harness in my own, because I saw these like really the DP of Life During Wartime is Ed Lockman, and he's just fantastic. And I was so young, I didn't really have an appreciation for it at the time. I wish I had watched what he was doing more. But I didn't know what any of the gear was. But nowadays it's like, man, if I could just learn from Ed Lockman, that would be great.
So after working on Life During Wartime, you eventually went back to New York, and you were also part of another Broadway production. You were in The Orphan's Home Cycle. And by the way, the show was a hit. Would go on to win the Outer Critics Circle Award, as well as the New York Drama Critics Circle Award. And that play ran until May of 2010. So what was it like going back to New York and being a part of another Broadway production such as this one?
Oh man, honestly, it was a a very different experience than I previously had, and I guess that gave me some perspective as to the different ways that you can go about something. No production is going to be the same if especially since I have now experienced a couple that are so vastly different. That one was really different because it was a series of 9 plays. So it was 9 plays divided into 3 sections. Each section is 3 hours, and they would be like, part 1, part 2, part 3. People would go and see them as different plays, but all the actors are performing them as kind of one greater play. So we performed it first in Hartford, Connecticut at the Hartford stage. And that's where we started like rehearsing them. We just started with the very first part, got that up and running, tested it out in front of audiences, started rehearsing the second part, started rehearsing the third part. All that's happening in 4 to 5 months. After that, we start doing what are called marathons, where we perform all of them in one day. And it's like, it's a 12-hour experience with your breaks included as a viewer, but it's 9 hours of performance. So again, very different, very artistic, very like, it kind of almost like, it's created out of an idea of like, how can we create an experience for people to enjoy for an entire day, not like, oh, people are coming to New York, they're going to see a show. So it just changes the type of people who come in. I remember a lot of really cool people came and saw that, though. That's how I met Ed Norton. Ed Norton one time came and watched, and I got to meet him, and he watched me perform.
Nice. Very cool. There was definitely some perks from, being a part of some of these projects, obviously. So this play was it was billed as the theatrical event of the season. The sets, the lighting, costumes, the music that basically made this play what it was. So congratulations again for being a part of another Broadway production. You're so committed to your craft, obviously, because everything that you've taken on in your career has been something very like serious, and you can tell that you have so much passion behind it because it shows in your work. So kudos to doing what you did. So in the summer of 2010, you landed your first comedic role, co-starring as awkward honor student turned karate competitor Milton Krupnick on the Disney XD original comedy series Kickin It. Tell me a little bit more about this role and what was it like being a part of this show?
Okay, I Milton Krupnick is he's like the crazy lovable nerd. When I first got the audition material for him, I remember seeing it, and he basically is just so in the audition material, and it's from the pilot. He was just so excited about like breaking both the boards that he goes on this rampage and ties his karate belt around his head and does like a titty twister, like a purple nurple, I guess, on somebody in the audience, and gets disqualified. Okay. So it's a whole thing, and it's very energetic. And I remember looking at it being like, whoa, okay. I was, always doing kind of more serious work. And I had previously been told that I was really not cut out for Nickelodeon or Disney because I just didn't have the energy for it. So I did not think too much about it. Not gonna lie. I was like, most everybody that kind of wants me in something wants me to do something a little more serious. I'm not much of like a character reactor, it seems. So I just kind of said, whatever. In the audition, I just went crazy, and I literally took my belt off and tied it around my head and knocked over a chair and had fun with the camera. It was a self-tape. It was at my agent's office. So again, it was like friends and like do stuff to the camera, and they're like, all right, Dylan, see you tomorrow. Okay.
So you had no martial arts experience prior to landing the role, is that correct?
No martial arts experience. I had dance experience. I've done dance for years, but again, like even in the audition, there was no martial. Like I was just being ridiculous. It was months though. It was like a while before I heard back. I was in the Orphans Home Cycle when I auditioned for Kickin It. And so it was a long time. They had like another set of auditions, and it was kind of a long time. So I didn't quite remember the first time, but I was like, I know that I like literally tied my belt around my head. I was like, I guess they liked that kind of energy. And so I did something along those lines again. Just in the audition, it was, they flew somebody out this time. So they had, an actual person in the room. And they were like, whoa, I remember them being like, oh, it's a lot, like, I guess a lot more than everybody else was doing. Now, a chemistry read is where, you'll get paired up with various other actors who are playing all the other roles, and they'll basically mix and match you. So there'll be like 3 options for Milton, 2 options for Jack, 2 options for Jerry kind of thing. They'll be like, we'll see how you guys look together, and then they'll have you run the scene, and then they'll do it again. So I got called out for that. I was in LA for less than 24 hours. I got to meet most of the cast there, who we ended up having. And it was just meeting everybody, seeing LA. It's not the very first time I had been to LA, but it's pretty much the first time that I ever been north of Anaheim. I had come to Disneyland and to audition for something years ago. So new experience, new everything, seeing the Disney building, Burbank, LAX. It's like, just felt like moving to New York again, honestly. Felt like the very first time I went and just like seeing all these like new things and just this new business, new industry, all these people doing a completely different thing, practically on the other side of the country, again, mind blown. It just changed my perspective. I remember I auditioned for that, and it was a couple weeks that we had to wait for anything, but there was just something that I was like, I think we're moving to LA. Like, I feel like my time is closing in New York. I can feel the door opening in LA, and regardless, I feel like we need to go out there. But yeah, I got in the role, and that we had 2 weeks to just get everything packed up and sent over. And they helped facilitate that, luckily, because that was a very stressful time crunch they gave us. But they were like, 2 weeks, be here. we were like, oh my God. So we got everything and just shipped it and found an apartment very quick and moved out.
Did you actually enjoy just playing something completely different from what you were not used to, basically?
I did. I felt that maybe because especially at the time, I had felt that perhaps all of the experience was leading me to something like this. I felt like maybe this was like the next step that I needed or wanted so that I could like kind of break through a bit. And not even necessarily in like breakthrough in the public, but like breakthrough in myself, like learn kind of, a different side of myself and kind of focus even more on comedy anyway. Just because everything was so serious, and I did have fun with comedy, so I wanted to explore it more. And Milton was such a great opportunity. 4 full years of being able to be one character. That's like being able to actually have something beginning to end that you can grow with. I got to create everything from the character from the ground up, and then take it to its final episode. And in a comedic format that was like relatively like theater. Sitcom is so strikingly similar to theater. It's insane. So it was very like, it was a nice, easy transition to move over and just being like, got it. Okay. Then I was able to pick up on what's going on behind the camera a little bit more and, just see everything in action. When you're on stage, everything that's behind the scenes is literally hidden from everyone. So there's, something about being in a space where it's like, oh, now you're seeing it all happen, and you're getting to meet all of the people a little easier who are doing all the jobs that you didn't quite know, like couldn't quite put your finger on what were. And so it answered a lot of questions. It opened my eyes, and the role was just like, it was basically like, I don't know, we were like a family. We were a bunch of kids, just have fun. Make your roles consistent, make these jokes hit. Ultimately we had a big conversation at the beginning being like, all right, the writers want us to pull as much as we can from our characters, by kind of becoming the characters, having the characters become us. They interviewed us pretty thoroughly ahead of time to see what we like so they can incorporate as much from the real world as possible, but also kind of flavor it and accentuate it into something that they can get storylines out of, and we can get kind of, jokes out of, and continued ideas. And quite literally, it's like, a huge part of the making shows canon is the actors being like, this isn't part of my character. Like, let me do it this way instead. So it's like, that kind of freedom for the cast and us understanding that at that point, it made it nice to be able to be like, oh, this is like I don't know, it's like a little kingdom that gets built up, and you get to just interact and be a part of the kingdom and like show it off to the world. And we had our little dominion. It was like such an incredible, and it makes me want to get into television, like on the producing side as well.
That show also had a couple other people in it. Leo Howard was part of it, Jason Earls, Alex Jones, Mateo Arias, and Olivia Holt. What was it like working with this cast?
Man, we had a great cast. I think that like our cast was so nice, and we had no real beef. And that's so like rare. I found out. I thought it was more normal, but I found out it's way more rare. And so that made for a nice experience. We had we built this thing, producers built it for us, because we liked hanging out. And again, we were kids, so we would kind of, sneak up to the roof of the building to eat lunch. Like nothing crazy, but we weren't wild, but we would, do things like that. Or I guess the lot security had kind of gotten a little angry at us for a couple of things that we did. So the producers built us this little area called the Man Cave and Olivia, which was just like, it was like a room for us. They like built on top of some sets where they had some musical instruments and like mini fridge and stuff, and the hangout area, just so that we could kind of have our own space aside from everyone else for whatever. And that was they like, everybody at that show really cared. It felt like everybody really loved the experience and wanted to have a good experience. So they made it a good experience for us, and I was very pleased with it. And the cast was so we got along. We all did school together too. I know that like on Allison's show, she was like the only kid doing school at the time. And so it just changes things when it's like everybody except for Jason is in the schoolroom. Then we all finish our school and go hang out with Jason. It's like, we just, it had a good dynamic.
Are there any stories that you can remember that went down on set with Jason Earls?
Oh gosh. What I can say is that he used to kind of get flustered and get really funny, like kind of in kind of a shock defense. And then whenever like people would start laughing, then he kind of like does this thing where he almost gets angry and gets even funnier. And so it became this thing where we would try to piss him off because we knew that he was going to like deliver some bangers. And so like I'm trying to remember any like episode in specific where I know this happened, but he kind of gets a little red and would just start kind of firing off like one-liners when you started kind of like, picking on him or like teasing him a little bit. It's kind of like poking a bear and then showing the bear perform. It's like, see, look at all he does. He was so funny. But yeah, it's just like, honestly, you can look through and like just notice when he's red. He's probably upset because we were like, hey, like, make this funny. Go make this funny. Your forehead's big. And he'd be like, and then he'd say something and it'd just be awesome.
Tell us a little bit more about what it was like being around Olivia Holt.
I remember our set was always like, we were always very like protective of her. It's like she had, multiple brothers, like 4 or 5 brothers, depending on if Jason was there, kind of all like standing guard of her for a lot of what would be like, I don't know, considered not even just guys coming in from other shows and being like, what? Like, no, it's like our sister. You can't like come in here. What do you say? So we were always very protective of her. I remember one story in specific. Olivia, I don't remember what the context was of this, had an egg that had a smiley face on it. And it was in our refrigerator in the schoolroom. And she was like taking care of this egg for whatever reason. And again, literally don't know why. But we were like, oh, we're going to not crack that egg because we wouldn't do that. But we're going to hide that egg and crack a different egg and just see what her reaction is. And it did not go. She was very upset. And we were like, whoa, like, did not know like the context of the egg or anything. But it was like, we were like, we didn't like actually crack your egg. And I don't know. It was just this, like, we were very protective of her, but we kind of like pick on her like a sister. And I do remember that was one moment in particular that we were like, oops, okay, maybe we went too far, yeah.
So this show definitely did amazing things for you in your career. Not only were you around a cast that felt like family, but this was also the same show where you would meet a person that was very close to you then and is still close to you now. This person would become your wife, Allison Snyder. So you and your wife, Allison Snyder, met on the set of Kickin It. Is that correct?
So she came, let's see. Her manager repped one of the cast members on our show. So like the very first day of our pilot, she came over and was just like saying hi, being like, oh, hey, like, we're rep by the, she was rep by the same person. She crossed the lot, just wanted to say hello, meet the new Disney faces. So literally, like, she was one of the very first people I met out in LA. And we were just on the same lot. So it's technically on the Kickin It set, I believe. But yeah, same lot, like literally, a couple 100 feet away from each other. And that's nice. Where we, did our first seasons. And then, and then our show ended up going where their show was. So we ended up moving over to their stage right after. We met there, we became friends. She used to come over, especially since she was like more in our age group anyway. We would always like, hang out and have lunch. They had a little scary doll over at the So Random set called Ortho. and it was like this mannequin that was horrifying. It was very scary. But the mannequin would like, you know, travel around and kind of like scare people, and that doll would be then signed by that person. And so we kind of, you know, included some Kickin It cast members in on that and bounced it back and forth and had fun. It was nice because like having people around the same age in general is great. Having people that kind of share the same schoolwork relationship is also great. It's such a weird experience to be in, like, you know, work and doing school at the same time in this format. There are very few people that are out there who can kind of understand, I guess. I think for Allison being able to come over, that was great. And, you know, being able to actually have more people her age.
Being that she was able to hang out with people her age, or at least within that age range, made things a lot easier for her. And obviously that started a relationship between you guys. And it's such a strong relationship I see now, because not only did you guys go and tie the knot together, but, you guys remain close to this day, and you're working together as well, which is so amazing to see. And Dylan, you guys actually got engaged on New Year's Day in 2019. I know you had mentioned 2019 earlier, but you were engaged on New Year's Day, and you married on September 18th of that year. Eventually you went on to form or create Watch the Footage Productions. What's it like, knowing that you were able to do something like this with an important person in your life, such as Allison, who is your wife today? What does that feel like, man? Just knowing that you can work with your wife.
Yeah, I've actually been surprised. Maybe I shouldn't be surprised, but I've been surprised that a lot of people will say, I could never work with my significant other. I'm intrigued by that because, I guess to me, the whole idea of relationship and everything is you want to find someone who you enjoy being around and enjoy doing things with. So naturally, it's like us having this pretty, awesome friendship, relationship, work partnership. It's like we enjoy each other, so we can work on multiple things with each other. We also like the way each other works. Like we don't interfere with things that each other does, which I think is important because, that could cause some tension. So that being said, I think it's awesome. And I'm like, oh man, I feel like this should be the case more often. And it is sometimes. It's just, I'm so shocked with how many people are like, whoa, you work with your partner. Like, how does that go? I'm like, it's fine. It's great. And it's like, we love doing the same thing. We have the same interests and we attack problems in slightly different ways, which gives perspective. And they're like, oh okay.
So you also worked with your wife, Allison Snyder, on her YouTube series, Astrid Clover, and you portrayed Astrid's boom operator. I believe they called you the boom guy. What was it like being a part of Astrid Clover and working with your wife on that project?
It was great. I appeared on Astrid Clover as a character one time before, just kind of like she needed, people to help and everything. And I was available. But it was after we had started dating and I was working on a shoot. And there was a boom operator there. I was an actor in this shoot. There was a boom operator there who did not know what was going on. It was like his first time on set, and people would go up to ask him questions. And he has the cans on, and he if they asked him a question he didn't know, he would just pretend like he was listening to a buzz or something and tap the mic. And so I was talking about this guy. I'm like, it's so interesting, baby. I was like, there's this boom operator who's it's hilarious, but I'm watching him and I'm seeing him ignore people because he's just so nervous about answering wrong and he doesn't know what's happening. And she's like, that's really funny. Would you want to do some sort of character like that? And I'm like, yes. And that's something they never actually had sound really before then. So it was like, okay, well, let me just kind of see what I can do, what I have gear wise and what I can accomplish. And let's take your sound to the next level. And so it started with that. And it's well, I have a bunch of cameras and lenses as well. So I started kind of outfitting the project. And And then I was performing in it as well. I'm like, okay, this is like, it was just like a little machine for us to do every single week. And I don't know, it was fun. It for Allison, she always talks about how it puts some pressure for practice. Literally just no matter what, she has a deadline and she has to get an episode out. So, gotta make it, gotta sit down and, do it. And I mean, a little bit the same way. It's like, no matter what, we have to put an episode out. We got to get it together, get our props, get our gear, and get out there and film. It definitely just helps the whole, like, go-getter attitude. The entire show is just guerrilla filmmaking at its core, at its finest. And yeah, we definitely tried to utilize as many of our resources as possible, but we're making it happen for a YouTube budget. So
both of you are so amazing at what you do. And congrats to both of you. Again, as I mentioned earlier, this show is all about highlighting folks such as yourself who are constantly grinding, constantly hustling, just doing their best to help motivate others to stay on their grind as well. So for our listeners and viewers tuning in right now who are trying to pursue a dream, if you could offer them any advice, what would you say to these people?
Okay. Any advice that I can give is that there is this like fundamental change that has to happen in your mind when you want yourself to be successful, when you are successful, and when you have things coming in, like when you're making money, or when you projects are happening for you, there's this like mindset that you switch into. And I think that it's really important to kind of go ahead and like do that mental preparation and talk to yourself and be ready to be like, hey, I am successful. Like, I'm working hard. I am making things happen. It honestly, it's the whole idea of doing affirmations, but it's tuning your brain to start thinking like that so that you're not shooting yourself down. Because you want to utilize every single opportunity that you can get, anything that kind of presents itself in front of you, or any time that you could be spending to accomplish a certain goal. You want your brain to kind of be in that mindset already, so that it takes those opportunities, so that you're already kind of thinking ahead, so that you are making those steps that you need to launch a brand, or get your business sold, or whatever you're doing, to keep your grind going, tune your brain, affirm yourself. I think that's really important.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's wonderful advice, by the way, for those that are listening and tuning in right now. If you're interested in knowing more about what Dylan's got going on, Dylan, what's the best way for everybody to reach you right now?
At Dylan R. Snyder on everything. Instagram is I post my updates on there occasionally to kind of let everybody know what's going on. And that's essentially the hub that I primarily use. So Instagram at Dylan R. Snyder. But you can check out my website, DylanRileySnyder.com. That has links to everything there. You can kind of see what I got going on. IMDb and all of our projects will be linked through there as well. So keep up with us. You can see the work we're doing, watch the footage in our new films.
I've enjoyed everything I've watched. So you guys are doing wonderful work over there. Thank you so much, man, for being a part of the Grizzly podcast. Again, it was only right to have you on this show because you're somebody who continues to stay on their grind, man. With that being said, Dylan, stay on your Grizzly.
Thank you. Stay on your Grizzly, Irvin.
Perfect. Dylan, thank you so much for being a part of the Grizzly podcast, man. We'll be in touch, man. Take it easy.
Thank you.
Get it, pop. Let's get it.
Yo, that's what I'm talking about.
Don't miss a thing. Subscribe to the Grizzly Podcast YouTube channel to access full episodes, video clips, and more on YouTube. The most authentic podcast is online at grizzlypodcast.com and on all major podcast platforms. Guest appearances and real conversations that will push you to hustle. The Grizzly Podcast is now streaming. Hey, you. Do you want to be successful? Then you gotta look the part. Get your official Grizzly Podcast merch. Available now at grizzlypodcast.com. We've shared success stories from people of all backgrounds and inspired others to pursue their dreams. Relive those moments and stream episodes of the Grizzly Podcast on our website, grizzlypodcast.com, and on all major podcast platforms.
Yo, turn it up.
Hard work, dedication, and progress. Stay on your Grizzly.
Yeah.
Thanks for checking out another Grizzly Podcast episode. We'll see you next time.